Hello! My name is Kallista, and welcome back to Mass Effect Legendary Edition. In the last episode, we returned to the Normandy to prepare for our next mission. We're going to be taking on the DLC, Bring Down the Sky. Now, before I do that, I just want to check in with the companions to see if they have anything to say. Part of me wonders if they'll only have new stuff to talk about after each main mission, but then if that's the case, then we really won't get to know these people all that much, so I just want to check in with them. Now, I have sorted out my inventory. Naomi is looking very snazzy in her new armor, and I also realized I had enough money to buy the Spectre pistol, so I have invested in that. I've also cleared out my inventory. All we have left is this one pistol and some medium armor for Garrus that you can't wear yet. Okie doke, good stuff. Now then, Ashley. Hello there, my dear.
Commander?
Yeah, anything to talk about?
Do you have a few minutes to talk? One-on-one?
Sure. I was just watching some mail from home.
Oh, before I go, we saw Caden in a news vid about the Normandy. He's cute. Later, sis.
Let's pretend this never happened.
So they do have more stuff to talk about. Oh, that is such a relief. That is such a relief. I was genuinely thinking, like, we're not going to get to know these people at all. Okay, that's good. Yeah, Kaiden. I mean, if you want to go for him, you can. If your sister wants to go for him, she can. Please distract this man from the lesbian on board.
Are you interested in the lieutenant, Chief?
No, ma'am. And anyway, Scuttlebutt says he's already sweet on someone. What's up? You didn't come by to eavesdrop on family mail.
He's sweet on the lesbian, please. We need help.
Your family seems to be important to you.
Yeah, we've always been close. Me and my sisters especially. With Dad on duty so much, I had to help Mom raise them.
Okay. Yeah, tell me about them.
Did your father serve with the fleet?
Yeah, took any crap posting he could get that offered space time. You know what? He worked his ass off trying to get recognized, but he never made it above serviceman 3rd class. He was real proud when I met Chief. First thing he did was salute.
That's interesting. So her dad was desperate to get into space, meanwhile Ashley is desperate to remain on the ground.
What about your mother? You haven't mentioned her.
You must know what military wives are like. Strong because they have to be, able to raise kids while Dad's away on a 6-month cruise. She has a degree in planetary geology. She and Dad both wanted to see new worlds. She gave up her career to raise us, though.
Ooh, From how this is sounding, so her mum has this amazing degree in planetary geology or biology, whichever it was, and she gave up her career to raise us because her dad was taking every single posting he could because he wanted to go into space. And because she's so family-oriented, rather than blaming her dad, you know, for causing this friction, she's blaming space instead. Rather than holding her father responsible for his, you know, obsession with space, she's blaming space instead.
You have more than one sister? Sounds like a big family.
Yeah, I'm the oldest, then Abby, then Lynn. Sarah's the youngest. She's still in high school. With 4 girls, Dad used to say he felt more outnumbered at home than on maneuvers.
Where did you grow up?
All over. We transferred a half a dozen times before I finished grade school. You go where personnel command sends you, right? I guess that's why I'm so tight with my sisters. We'd have to leave all our friends every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, fair. She took on this kind of surrogate, parent role. She doesn't necessarily sound bitter about it, but that type of relationship, it can breed resentment. Especially if the younger kids have their dad. You know, if he was more present raising the younger ones, then that can lead to some resentment. If it doesn't lead to bitterness, which, like I said, it doesn't seem to have resorted to that here, but yeah, I'm wondering if she's been so desperate to remain groundside because of, you know, like, oh, my dad wasn't there, but I don't want to blame him because I love my dad. I love my dad, and I don't necessarily begrudge his dreams. However, his dreams had a really negative impact on me and the family. But I don't want to blame him, so instead I'm gonna blame what he was dreaming about. Ooh. Interesting.
After helping raise them, your sisters still talk to you? Amazing.
Things were tense between Sarah and me for a while. Then we bonded.
Do you want to talk about it?
Sounds like a story. Feel like sharing?
Sarah got herself a boyfriend who wanted to go faster than she did, Mike. I didn't think he was a bad kid, just pushy. Lynn would send me these worried vid mails, and I'd tell her to relax.
I'm so tempted. Just be like, this is why, fuck them, but not like that. Here's the thing, I doubt this is gonna be like, vid mails? What are they? Because she lives in this world where obviously, I mean, here's the thing, you can do that today. You might not have been able to do that at the time this game was released, but you can certainly do that now. I'm gonna assume this is more like, oh, what was in the vid mails, or at least I'm hoping that's where this is going.
Where were you when this was going on?
I was on active duty. Sarah's graduating high school this year. This was only a couple of years back. They were on Amaterasu. At the time, I was assigned to Chernobog. Same cluster, but a dozen Hellwire away. Close enough to talk regularly, too far to make it back in an emergency. I couldn't afford a fast packet flight.
Okay. Okay, yeah, no does mean no.
If he really liked her, he wouldn't be pushy.
Yeah, of course. If he didn't ask at all, I'd wonder if he thought Sarah was ugly. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Mike thought they'd go for a romantic walk in the woods, because he figured it was past time they did the deed. She levered Mike face first into a tree and left. Didn't have a scratch on her. Good thing Mom and Dad had us all learn some kind of self-defense. I took emergency leave and walked Sarah to school for a few days.
Good for Sarah! Good for you, lass. Damn straight.
Why didn't you tell the police?
She said it wouldn't solve the real problem, and she and Mike would both become household names. It was a small colony. I said it was her call to make, that we should let her do it her way. Mom was pretty pissed about that.
I mean, here's the thing, on one hand, like, you should call the police, but if she doesn't want to get the police involved, then that is her decision. It's not necessarily the decision I would make or the decision Naomi would make, but it's her decision. And that's worth respecting.
You said all of your sisters learned self-defense?
Lynn did pistol practice, but didn't like it. She's kind of nervous. Sarah took Aikido. Abby decided to learn the sword. She always was a little weird. Likes big skirts and tops you have to tie her into. They do great things to her figure, though.
And what about you?
So, what did you learn?
One of Dad's friends taught me Marine hand-to-hand.
Fair. Damn. Yeah, that is extremely dedicated.
You traveled all the way home to walk your sister to school.
It was only a dozen light years, like a day's cruise. It's not like I was going to Earth or something. My last day out, Mike was waiting for us. Sarah had told her friends, so everyone at school knew what he did. He wasn't happy. I wanted to snap him in half, but Sarah gave me this look, this let me handle it, I need to do this alone look. She kept her cool, God bless her, as he screamed in her face. She just let him vent. Then he tried to punch her. I swear, she just flowed around him. Next thing I knew, he's face down on the sidewalk, and there's blood everywhere.
She hit him. Of course she did. He tried to punch her. Good girl. Good on her. I like Sarah. Can she join the crew? I know she's just about to graduate, but like, does she want to join us? She sounds cool as hell.
That's unbelievable. Sarah must be as good as you.
Better. I'm more or less a straight-up puncher. When he swung, she wasn't there anymore, and he fell. She helped him stop the bleeding and had me call an ambulance. She told the paramedics he fell. Before they took him to the hospital, Mike touched Sarah's arm. I thought he was gonna end up on the ground again. But he hung his head, whispered, "I'm sorry," and started crying. And she hugged him. The Williams women are a decisive bunch, Commander. We do things when we're ready. Not before, not after.
That is a valid point. Where was your father in all of this? Was he on duty or was he elsewhere? Because this is more of what a father should be doing, or a mother, to be fair. Still, I don't think Naomi would necessarily ask this because, again, she grew up in an unconventional familial structure where essentially from a young age she had to take care of herself. There was no one else looking out for her until she reached a certain age and she met her friend Skylar. So I don't think she'd necessarily be judging, like, oh, but where was your father in this? Why wasn't he doing it? But from my perspective, that is a valid question. Yeah, this was an interesting story. I do like learning about Ashley. Because I think it would be very easy to just be like, oh, she's a space racist. Fuck her. I'm never gonna learn anything about her. And just throw her to the side. I don't want to do that. I want to get to know her. And she is extremely interesting. She's still a space racist. Here's the thing, there is no valid excuse for racism. Full stop. There is no valid excuse for racism. I don't care that, like, oh, well, a person of colour punched me once, so therefore I think they're all bad. No, that's bullshit. That is a child's way of looking at things. Are you a child? Are you admitting to be like a child? No, don't be an idiot. Don't be a tit. There is no valid excuse for racism, or in this case, space racism. But it is interesting learning about her psychology, almost, and seeing the kind of path she took that led to her having these views. It's interesting. She wasn't just born being a space racist. She's kind of had to deal with, like, okay, my father's obsessed with space, and that hurt the family. Therefore, I'm going to hate space. And, okay, now I'm going to stay groundside because I don't want to put my family through the same things he put them through by obsessing over space and, oh, who comes from space? Aliens. And I'm not surrounding myself in their culture, so therefore they're kind of weird and frightening to me. So I find her interesting. I find her to be quite a surprisingly well-written character, even if I'm like, dude, your views are terrible, girl. Your views are terrible, but she's interesting, and it was an interesting story.
Your sister's something else. But you didn't mention your father at all. Was he on deployment?
Dad always wanted to serve in space, but he wanted us to have real ground under our feet. He'd say, space is beautiful, but you can't raise a family there. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. All times I've enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone. For always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments.
Oh, hello. Well, I guess this is Tennyson. I would not have known that myself. Here's the thing, I don't necessarily picture Naomi being much of a poetry fan, and I kind of doubt that she'd know that it'd be Tennyson, so you know what, I don't think she'd necessarily find it boring and be like, oh, what's this shit? So yeah, you read poetry.
I never thought I'd hear you reciting poetry.
Just because I can drill you between the eyes at 100 meters doesn't mean I can't like sensitive stuff. Just don't spread it around. Ulysses was my dad's favorite poem. Every time he shipped out, he recorded me reading it. He had a dozen versions when he retired.
Yeah, it did sound lovely.
Does he still like it?
I sure hope so. I read it to his grave every time I go home. Dad passed on a few years back. He's probably still watching, though.
Okay. So you're saying you're religious? Okay.
You mean from wherever we go after death?
Dead on, Skipper. He's with God now. That's not a problem with you, is it? That I believe in God?
No, of course not. I've said it before, Naomi herself, I think she's somewhere on the atheist/agnostic spectrum. I do think she kind of thinks that, like, okay, if there is this God, if he has a plan and all this, that, and the other, then why did I have to go through what I had to when I was a kid? What part of his plan was that? I suffered a lot, and on a cruise I suffered, and innocent kids go through stuff on a day-to-day basis. Like, why? What is the purpose of that? What for is all of this negative stuff happening? But I don't think she has a negative view of people who believe in religion. It's more so the fact of, like, you know, I don't really get this myself. You're saying there's a plan. I don't necessarily like you saying that, like, oh, there was a plan behind your mum abandoning you and you suffering and all this, that, and the other. There was a plan behind your best friend dying of a drug overdose and being left on the street. That was all a plan. Like, she finds that offensive. Yes, that could bring comfort to some, but she's like, hey, saying my friend died for a reason, that doesn't make it any better. Like, don't. Please just don't. Believe whatever you like. Like, that's A-okay with me. No judgments. Just please don't try and force your religion down my throat. She's not going to say keep it to yourself. Here's the thing. Ashley hasn't. Ashley hasn't been there being like, do you want to hear the word of God? She just happened to mention that, like, hey, my dad is dead and he's probably in heaven now. Like, that's not shoving it down someone's throat. Like, it's no problem. No problem whatsoever, darling.
Everyone has the right to believe what they want. Says so in the Alliance Charter, only with fancier words.
I'm glad you're open-minded about it. I've met a few people who are really weirded out by my faith. Because I work in space, I can't believe in a higher power? Jeez. Hello, have you people looked out the window? How can you look at this galaxy and not believe in something? I should get back to my duties. Didn't mean to take up so much of your time.
Hey, no worries.
Dismissed, Chief.
Ma'am.
On one hand, here's the thing, I like that there is a religious character on board the Normandy, but at the same time I'm like, why did it have to be the space racist? Why couldn't it have been Kaiden? Why couldn't it have been Kaiden? Why did the space racist have to be the representative of religion on board? Why? I was raised Catholic myself. You know, the whole 9 yards, I was baptized, confirmed, had my first communion, all this, that, and the other. I think I probably still have some of my communion gear. I should still have my first ever rosary that I got. Yeah, I was raised Catholic, and I may not like organized religion as an adult, but I see nothing wrong with religion in general. Like, believe whatever you want to believe. You do get some arseholes who will use religion as a means of control or passing judgment and this, that, and the other, and just generally being dicks. But I don't think that is representative of every religious person everywhere. And so I am kind of like, why did the racist have to be the religious person? Why are they making that connection? Oh god, but I like that was included. I do like that conversation was included. Why couldn't it have been Kaiden?
What do you want, Shepard?
Now, apparently I have a personal inquiry.
Why did you become a mercenary?
Lots of reasons.
Okay.
Such as?
Such as, I needed to get out of our system. I needed to eat. I needed to survive.
Why not stay and help your people?
I tried to help. That's why I had to leave.
What happened?
I was betrayed. I was head of a small tribe. We were trying to restore order after the war, but the other tribes were against us. They followed Jarrod, one of the few warlords who survived the war with the Turians. But he was old, and so were his ideas. He wanted to continue the war. He wanted us to fight. Turians, Solarians, each other. It didn't matter who, as long as we were fighting.
And what about you? What did you want?
What did you want?
I just wanted Jarrod to shut up, to stop his ranting. I wanted him to stop leading the tribes astray. But he couldn't understand how much things had changed. We didn't have the numbers to go to war. Even if we did, the genophage made sure we couldn't replenish our numbers fast enough. I told them all to forget about war. We needed to focus on breeding, at least for one generation. And for a while, we were getting through. Some of the tribes started coming around.
Why do I feel that Jarrod wasn't, though?
I take it the warlord didn't appreciate that.
No, he didn't. He arranged a crush with the tribes. A meeting on neutral ground. He wanted to talk. We met at the Hollows, near the graves of our ancestors. The skulls of our dead laid bare to remind us where we come from, and where we all go. It's as sacred as any Krogan place can be. Violence is forbidden.
I love that the name of their meeting is a crush. I love that from a linguistic perspective. I love that even the names of their, like, oh, this is like a meeting where you talk, you don't fight, we're still gonna name it something relatively aggressive. I like that.
Sounds like a trap to me. You must have suspected as much.
I did. But when your father invites you to a crush, well, there are some laws that even we hold sacred.
He's your dad.
Jarrod was your father?
He was. Until that day. We talked, but we didn't get anywhere. When it was clear that I wouldn't join him, he gave the signal. His men leapt from the graves of our ancestors like Krogan undead. The few that were loyal to me died quickly. I escaped with my life, but not before I sank my dagger deep into my father's chest. That is why I left, and that's why I'll never go back.
Ooh.
You must have family other than your father. Don't you miss them?
You trying to make me cry, Shepard? I've got some unfinished business with my family, but that's all.
What kind of business?
Before I left, I made an oath to my father's father. I swore to recover my family's battle armor. It was taken from him after the uprising.
Okay. So I guess, I mean, it would make sense. The Krogan are warriors. They would put stock in things like, oh, this was the armor that my ancestor wore at such fight, like we must look after it. This was the weapon they used.
What's so important about this armor?
It's a relic. Useless, really. But it was worn by 5 generations of my family before the war. It's rightfully mine. Originally, it was taken by the Turian military. We weren't allowed armor or weapons after the war. Now it's in the hands of Ton Actus, a Turian scum who collects relics from the war. He's made millions selling Krogan artifacts that were stolen from my people. He's got several bases where he stores his goods, all fortified and guarded. I just don't know which base has my family's armor.
We can look for it.
Just tell me where to start looking.
I'll upload the data to your nav system. But Commander, I want to be there when you find him.
Oh, hell yeah! Absolutely, we got a companion quest!
So long, Wrex.
Shepard.
Hell yes, you can come along, buddy. Sweet! Nice! Now then, I only have about 5 minutes left on my timer, so let's read some codex entries. Ooh.
The home world and capital of humanity is entering a new golden age. The resource wealth of a dozen settled colonies and 100 industrial outposts flows back to Earth, fueling great works of industry, commerce, and art. The great cities are greening as arcology skyscrapers and telecommuting allow more efficient use of land. Earth is still divided among nation-states, though all are affiliated beneath the overarching banner of the Systems Alliance. While every human enjoys a longer and better life than ever, the gap between rich and poor widens daily. Advanced nations have eliminated most genetic disease and pollution. Less fortunate regions have not progressed beyond 20th century technology and are often smog-choked, overpopulated slums. Sea levels have risen 2 meters in the last 200 years, and violent weather is common due to environmental damage inflicted during the late 21st century. The past few decades, however, have seen significant improvement due to recent technological advances.
Yeah, nothing else there. Krogan culture. The harsh Krogan homeworld conditioned the Krogan psychology for toughness, just as it did the body. Krogan have always had a tendency to be selfish, unsympathetic, and blunt. They respect strength and self-reliance, and are neither surprised nor offended by treachery. The weak and selfless do not live long. In their culture, looking out for number one is simply a matter of course. After their defeat in the rebellions, the very concept of Krogan leadership was discredited. Where a warlord could once command enough power to bring entire solar systems to heel and become overlord, these days it is rare for a single leader to have more than 1,000 warriors swear allegiance to him. Most Krogan trust and serve no one but themselves. This solitary attitude stems in part from a deep sense of fatalism and futility, a profound social effect of the genophage that caused Krogan numbers to dwindle to a relative handful. Not only are they angry that the entire galaxy seems out to get them, the Krogan are also generally pessimistic about their race's chance of survival. The surviving Krogan see no point to building for the future. There will be no future. The Krogan live with an attitude of kill, pillage, and be selfish, for tomorrow we die. Quarians' government. Due to the Quarians' precarious existence and the need to enforce strict rationing, government is somewhat autocratic. The migrant fleet's operations are directed by the Admiralty, a board of 5 military officers who are advised by a legislative body called the Conclave. Each vessel in the fleet has the right to send representatives to the Conclave aboard the flagship. The number of representatives is based on crew size. Larger clans with bigger ships and more votes form the cores of political blocs. Opposition comes from the Outriders Coalition, with delegates from thousands of smaller ships. The Admiralty defers to the Conclave's decisions in most circumstances. However, if all 5 members agree that a Conclave decision jeopardizes the survival of the fleet and cannot get the Conclave to address their concerns, they have the right to summarily overturn the legislative decision. After the Admiralty uses this extraordinary power, they must resign. If the Admiralty does not step down after using their veto, the rest of the military is obliged to arrest them. Each ship captain has authority over his vessel, but is advised by an elected civilian council, just as the Admiralty is advised by the Conclave. This relationship may range from cooperation to polite tolerance to outright hostility, but any captain who overrules his council without good reason is relieved of command by the Admiralty. Many Quarian ships are owned by clans who pool their resources to purchase used vessels from private sellers. Large ships are prestigious for big, rich clans, but a small ship means status for a small clan with enough personal wealth to afford a private vessel. Clan vessel captains are not subject to dismissal by the Admiralty. Abusive captains are a family problem if they do not disrupt the operations of the fleet. Interesting. Okie doke, and with that, I'm going to bring this episode to a close. In the next one, we speak to Tali and Garrus, but until then, please remember to like if you enjoyed, leave a comment below, and if you wanted to subscribe, it would be very much appreciated. I've been Kallista. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.